The drink, we're clicking to the environment. We're clicking to the environment. We're drinking to the environment. Yes.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is The Drink Sustainability. I am Ted, as you know, and with me, the wonderful, the beautiful Wiedeke. How's it going?
Hi, it's going really well. Everything's really great. My job is killing me, but like in the best way. Well, you know, when it's like really challenging and you're like, how am I going to solve all these problems? And then you solve them and you're like, wow, this feels really good.
Yeah, that's like a high.
It might be a little bit high. Yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Cheers to you for being on the show. And
yeah, cheers.
I know you're a busy woman, so thank you very much for squeezing me into your schedule.
Of course. Thank you for being flexible.
I am so happy I can be. So for those that don't know you at all or that well, would you mind telling everyone who you are, what you do, and then why they should kind of listen to you for this whole podcast in general?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I obviously can't make anyone listen to me, but they're already here listening to your show. So
I mean, yeah, we can't tell you what to do, but do your best.
Yeah. So I am a food scientist currently. I spent 3 years working in research and development for consumer packaged goods companies. I spent 2 years in supplier management for private aviation companies. And I spent about 10 years working in the food industry in general, working in restaurants, hotels, etc. I went for my degree in culinary nutrition. I have a degree in culinary nutrition with a minor in food science. I have another degree in culinary arts. And then I'm in the process of getting certified as a research chef as well as a food scientist. Cool. And then on top of like all of that, I'm also on the education committee for the Research Chefs Association.
What was that again?
I'm on the education committee for the Research Chefs Association. So I get to help them build out any of our new training programs. In any of our new webinars that we build, I'm part of the team that works on those.
Oh, very cool. So like you're kind of a big deal in a way. I'm a big deal, you know.
National champion, all the big deal.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, good for you. That's like amazing.
Yeah, I love what I do. So I spend a lot of time doing it.
That is amazing. So, and you've been doing this for like a total of what, like 6 years roughly?
Research and development and just food science and all of that. Yeah, I started working on my degree probably like 6 years, or no, not 6 years ago. Oh wow, this feels so forever ago. I'm in the field. I graduated 5-6 years ago.
Right. Yeah,
there we go. That's the best way to math that out.
Nice. Oh my God, that's awesome. So all right, so like what made you, let's backtrack a little bit though. So what made you like fall in love with the culinary arts? Was it just like, I love food, let's learn about it? Or is it like kind of like, you know, how did it fit? Like what made you fall in love with it?
I have a really weird background as far as like what made me fall in love with food. I know a lot of the people I went to school with were like, oh, my mother was this really great cook, or, you know, my father or my family owned a restaurant. And I don't have any of that. I really wanted to be a psychologist. And my parents told me that they would help me pay for school if I did a 4-year degree and I could make a certain amount of money. You can't become a psychologist with a 4-year degree. So that was entirely off the table. They were like, pick anything else, not that. So I found out that I could be a executive chef in a hospital. And as long as that was a teaching hospital, like with the University of Penn, I would be able to have the University of Penn basically donate a degree to me. So when you're when you work at colleges like that, so I thought that's my in. I will go to school for culinary arts. I will become an executive chef, and then I will work at the University of Penn. I will get a degree in psychology. I will become a psychologist. I had this whole plan at like 16, because 16, you know everything. And I started college
exactly.
at 17, and I went for it. I skipped my senior year and everything.
Very good.
And then my senior year of college, my senior year of college, I was going for a dietetics degree because I thought being a registered dietitian would help me in my quest of becoming an executive chef or working in a teaching hospital. Didn't really matter. Executive chef, registered dietitian, wasn't picky, just wanted to up my chances of getting to a teaching hospital. And I came across this course called Advanced Medical Nutrition Therapy, and I hated it with the burning passion of 1,000 suns. I didn't want to take it. The teacher scared me. I was not into it. And it was like the last class I needed to graduate. So I met up with the dean. The dean was like, well, if you want to graduate on time, you should look into food science. And I started looking into it, and I absolutely fell in love. It combined all of like the problem solving, the puzzle pieces, the heavy science aspects that I really loved in my career, and just let me focus on food, and also all of this experience and career that I've spent building since I was literally like 13 in the food industry, and like help me bring both of those to the table. So I kind of got sidetracked from trying to work in a university so that I could get another degree. And I've just been running around doing research and development and working with suppliers, working in food safety. And yeah, I kind of love it. It's really, really fascinating for me.
That is sick. Well, I am so happy that you've, over this last like decade, or half decade, I should say, found something that you're immensely passionate about. That's like amazing.
Yeah. I know for a while I was really jealous of like a lot of my colleagues. They're like, oh, I got into food because my mom's a great cook and da 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 da. And I'm like, my mom can't cook. I hope she never hears this. But she was not a good cook when I was growing up. And she's a wonderful cook now, but like she cooked like shoe leather, everything overcooked. It was terrible. She knows I feel this way, but I really still hope that she never sees this podcast.
Well, if she does, your food is great now, so we're good. So like building off of that, when you fell in love with food science and everything, was there any kind of, thought going through your head like, I love this, and it also matches kind of like this issue that I see in the food industry or something to that effect? Did that ever like run through your head?
So I think I started seeing a lot more issues in the food industry, and especially in the CPG world, once I actually dove into it. So like I started an internship working for a company called Perfect Fit Meals. They no longer exist. Their sister company, Texas Food Solutions, does still exist down in Texas. But when I started working for them, I realized we had some products that were going to waste, and I really wanted to make sure that we were donating those foods. I was like, why would we throw this out? This is ridiculous. There's no reason that we can't be donating this, get the tax write-off, like do the whole 9 yards and benefit. And I got pushback. That was like the first time in my life that I ever thought that I would experience pushback on, wanting to just do something genuinely good. And that's when I kind of started to see like the disconnect. In the end, there was definitely not that much pushback. We did end up getting all of the items donated. And we ended up putting a system in place that was like 2 days before something would expire, we would be able to donate it. And we worked with someone who would come pick up these products. They were absolutely phenomenal. Come pick them up and disperse them to different communities that needed the food. But it just, in that moment, I started realizing that this is so much bigger than the food waste that you see in a restaurant. And when you're working in a consumer packaged goods facility, you're making hundreds of thousands of meals per day. I mean, it was a huge difference than when you work in a restaurant and you throw out food scraps. massive. And the way that sustainability is impacted by the consumer packaged goods world is pretty intense.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's definitely where I started learning about it and when I started thinking about it. And I always try and kind of make it that like a little bit of an extracurricular. It's not something necessarily that every job I've ever been at, they're like, oh, you definitely need to make sure you're focusing on sustainability and that we're all working towards that. It's not necessarily a goal unless it's a goal for the consumer. So if you're in Whole Foods, then it's definitely a goal. Companies that are in Whole Foods, they know that their customers are going for sustainable. They know they're looking for that. But if you're working with like Costco, I'm gonna get like blacklisted for saying that. They don't care as much as Whole Foods does.
I mean, there's some companies that don't.
Just bleep out Costco for me.
I will, don't worry. Yeah, no, me. If you say any kind of name, I'll just bleep it out. It's fine.
But yeah. Yeah. So I learned about it then, and I still just try and make sure though that you bring in those aspects anywhere that you can. And I think a lot of people that I went to school with and a lot of my coworkers are equally passionate, especially these like younger generations were coming in. We have sustainability programs. The company that I work with now has a full sustainability program. Because our consumers care about that and we care about our consumers and we want that to match. And also because our higher ups do truly care about that, not just because like, oh, the consumer says so. There's no consumer out there sending 100 emails a day that we should do this. We just know it's right.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really wonderful. And that's kind of where it all started. It's just in the industry itself is realizing the problems exist.
So diving a little bit deeper into this whole issues aspect. So like packaged goods can definitely be improved, as you just said. Is there any other kind of what's the word? Is there any other kind of like aspect besides like I guess really packaging and stuff like that that you see that's can be improved dramatically?
This is another like mildly controversial thing that I have actually, but it's the organic food industry. It's incredibly unsustainable. Forgive me if I'm looking over here. I actually have like some notes of different research that I pinned for this, so I could like grab my sources.
I love it. Yes. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So, according to research by Wiedeke et al., published in Nutrition Today, finds that fear-based marketing tactics invoke safety concerns about non-organic produce. This is causing people to eat less produce overall because they can't afford to purchase produce that is strictly organic. So that fear tactic can cause people to eat less produce. And initially you might think like, oh, like, well, hopefully like organic farming is better for you, right? However, to have raised all of the crops in the United States on strictly organic farms in 2014, because that's the most recent stat that I have, it would have taken all of the parks, all of the wildlands, all of the national parks, public land, etc., in the lower 48 states, or 1.8 times as much land as is used for urban cities in the US, in the entire US. Yeah. So we don't have enough land to do organic produce. We don't have enough land for organic farming tactics. And that is one of the huge problems that I have with organic farming is A, that, B, fear mongering, and C, that there is.
It's kind of like, it kind of sounds like
it's not a sustainable practice and it doesn't have any nutritional value. Conceptually, I understand wanting to make sure that you have the safest possible thing and wanting to do what's best for your family and what's best for your children. And I totally understand that we live in a world where you can't be expected to have all of the same information that I have as a food scientist. I think that it's a duty of like food companies themselves to kind of help guide the consumer in this way, because how on earth would you as a person have the time to spend the research knowing that Wiedeke et al. Has done all of this? How is every single person expected to be held liable? I think that it kind of does fall on people like myself, food scientists, as well as marketing departments who really push this information out there, because they know it's profitable, they know it's what sells, and they like their jobs. And I get that. I totally understand that, but I think that it's questionable.
It just also kind of, it causes the viewers watching this, and also just in general, I've realized that, and you've probably seen this too, where a lot of this fear mongering and greenwashing and all that kind of stuff going on in the sustainability realm has like really caused everyone to wake up and be like, wait, does this thing have like a lot of GMOs, a lot of pesticides, a lot of, anything that's foreign to the body and not good for you? I'm questioning this because I'm not sure if I should have it. So maybe, and it's not like anyone's going to be like in the produce station and be like, let me look this up really quick. Like no one has.
Exactly. You don't have the time. It's an unrealistic expectation. I don't think that it should fall on the consumer to feel guilt about not having this information either. I mean, it would be absolutely impossible for me to know all of this, except for the fact that I am a food scientist. It is my job to know this. And I do like to think that it's my job to educate other people on these matters.
Hell yeah.
But, like if you're the average Joe running a surf shop and you hear organic produce is better for you and what I farm in my backyard is going to be good for me, of course you're going to want to believe that, and you're going to want to grow your own sustainable produce. And I respect that. Yeah. Because you want to do what's best for your body. But I think it's just up to these like larger companies to stop focusing on this like fear mongering and this information that is not really beneficial and also occasionally misrepresented.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
Because, everyone only has a certain amount of time in the day. Plus you may have a family, like the average Joe has a family, is working like probably 2 jobs each, paying for, I'm gonna like for a babysitter all the night, and it's.
Sustainability goes so much further than like organic produce and which thing is the right thing to buy. I mean, sustainability is like economic sustainability, your actual global sustainability as like a whole, like the whole environment, but there's like human, there's social, there's economic, like there's all these different factors. And how can one person be able to map out every distinct thing? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So I do think like some of this should fall on these larger companies with these marketing tactics. And I understand it's easy money to not do that. It is. I fully understand that. I also understand that like I've worked for companies that put higher price tags on items than maybe they necessarily had to, because the consumer in testing that we had done and paid for, the consumer perceived that a higher priced item, even if it was the exact same product in a slightly different container, either with a simple traditional package, would be healthier or would be better for you. So there is like also another issue with people assume they're paying this premium for something that's good for you and it's better for you and it's healthier for you. It's that assumption, and it's not always true, and it's people get taken in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand, and I definitely agree with you on the fact that like people, I mean, it's just crazy on how, like, for example, like this is totally I feel like this is totally a similar example where, and this is definitely a hot button issue right now because it's everywhere in the news, but being vaccinated or unvaccinated, like the government, big pharma is incentivizing people to get the vaccine, like $500 bonus, $1,000 bonus, whatever bonus this. If you get vaccinated, you could work here, sign on bonus, whatever.
Mhm.
And then like you have, but on the opposite end of the stick, that like I feel like the news scared the living shit out of at least more than half the population, like about it. And like, I mean, I'm no, biologist by any means. Everyone knows that. I'm not claiming to be a doctor. I'm not. I'm just saying I'm explaining my experience from observing how friends and family, coworkers have reacted to this whole thing, and there's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of misinformation, and it's crazy. It's like you want us to get the vaccine, but you're scaring us half to death about this whole virus and all that kind of stuff.
It's challenging. It really is. And it's hard to figure out which information is not only the most accurate, but the most up to date, especially with COVID and vaccines and all of that. I mean, a year ago, there was no real COVID vaccine. I mean, 2 years ago, there was our first case of COVID, basically.
Yeah.
And,
a little over a year and a half ago. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, it's pretty insane that we have all of this information. It's coming really rapidly. We have this global problem.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we have all of these different industries that don't typically work together, that have to work together. Like the company that helps train all of the different vaccine companies on how to transport their vaccines is Dippin' Dots, because they're the only global supplier of frozen like goods that need to be kept at that temperature.
Wait, Dippin' Dots as in the vendor of like
the ice cream? Yes.
I did not actually know that.
Yeah.
That's funny as hell.
Yeah, so they were contacting Dippin' Dots, the ice cream, to figure out the global supply chain for vaccines.
I'm sorry.
I make these things up. Like I could not. I really can't.
Please, like,
favorite
if you find the article for that, please send that to me.
Yes.
With the link and stuff. Like, if you want to do it now, go for it. I'll keep talking. But,
yeah.
oh my God,
the other really great fun fact that I love about food and sustainability is McDonald's makes something called the McShrimp, and it tests really well, really, really well. The McShrimp is apparently, people love it more than the McRib in markets where it exists. There's not a lot of markets where it exists. Why? It tests well, it sells well.
What do you mean by it tests well?
Basically, consumers want the McShrimp.
Oh, okay.
Like consumers want to buy it. In pre-market testing, it tested with really high scores, which meant that if it had pushed that to launch, it hypothetically would have been a really good seller for them. The reason we don't have a McShrimp, according to one of the women who worked on the McShrimp at, what is that? The Research Chefs Conference in 2017 and maybe probably 2016, 2017 in Vegas.
Okay.
We don't have a McShrimp because she would have had to have basically killed off all of the shrimp of that size due to overfishing. And like companies like
I was about
McDonald's,
to say, will it have to do with overfishing? I'm like waiting for you to say that.
Companies like McDonald's have to factor things like that in, and they're like, that's literally why we don't have a McShrimp. And like these big food companies have to factor in sustainability in ways that the average consumer don't think about. Just we never would have thought about Dippin' Dots being the person that Pfizer has to reach out to about their vaccine.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, coming from the seafood industry, which I work in, like there's been a huge shortage of, well, pretty much crab meat, shrimp. I mean, there's been a whole lot of shortages on things just because it's not really even shortages. It's more like the hands to process the product, from C to U.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like during the whole summer, like I kept hearing one of the bosses saying like, oh my God, like, sorry, we don't have any crab meat. We don't have any crab meat. We don't have this kind of shrimp, whatever. Like, it's nuts.
Well, we lost a huge part of the population to COVID. And not to mention the fact that we did lose a large part of the population. There's also the huge factor of the Great Resignation, where you see a lot of employees they don't want to work, and it's not because they're not lazy, it's because they realize that they've had this chance to take a break because no one, cared about them and how terribly they were treated during the pandemic.
That's true, yeah.
And frankly berated during the pandemic. I mean, you can Google news articles about employees having people scream at them, spit at them, assault them for asking other humans to wear a mask. Whether you agree with wearing a mask or not, I think we can all agree that that's not a reasonable reaction. And frankly, that's definitely not something that I would ever want to deal with for $12 an hour.
Well, no, I mean, especially when you're inside in closed quarters, it's pretty much like a mandate to do that anyway, just for people's safety. And you can't really think of it as, oh, I don't care about the mask, the virus isn't real, whatever the case may be. Like, science proves that the vaccine, the virus is real. Just wear a damn mask. Like, and in my personal opinion, I mean, people will probably disagree with me when I say this, but if you're not going to have the vaccine, at least wear the damn mask. Like I've heard so many people be like, oh my God, I could barely breathe with it on or whatever. I'm like, then get a different kind of mask. Like, stop making so many excuses. It's like, I mean, granted, I get sometimes it's hard to, sometimes.
Yeah.
Hard to breathe, I guess. But
as someone who wears glasses and a mask, I hate going up the stairs, man. My glasses get all fogged up. It's awful. And like, you can try and crimp it all you want. It's like, it's never going to work. It's miserable. Yeah. But nonetheless, I wear my mask every day. When I go into the office, I wear my mask because my current office is like a fully vaccinated location. So even though we have those stipulations, I'm going to wear my mask.
Right.
And that's a requirement, and I don't mind. It's not hurting anyone. It's not hurting me. It's annoying, but pain and annoyance are different.
Well, I mean, yeah, would you rather, be, I guess, sick on your deathbed or just sick in general? Or would you rather be working, making money, and have a mask over your face?
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be a lot worse.
It definitely, it could be a lot worse. Even if you believe that you would not be sick, would you rather be lying at home, potentially running out of unemployment if you have the choice? I think the majority of people would rather be working jobs that treat them like human beings.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice to be treated like a human being rather than a fucking door rag. So I mean, or a doormat. So I mean, I get that too. I really do. And big companies and bosses, I mean, any kind of boss should definitely treat their employee like a fucking human being. If you don't, then you're a piece of shit. So I mean,
no arguments here.
So I mean, there you go. All right, well, we kind of just went off of a tangent there, but it's okay.
Maybe tangents.
A little bit, but it's all right. The main focus here, the main real focus is public health and societal health, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, that runs into it, and also food science. So let's get back to food science, shall we?
Yeah, definitely.
So we're going over a little bit of a half hour, but it's fine. It's totally cool. So let's just back up really quick. So throughout this whole thing, you've fallen, you're like, okay, I love the culinary arts, like this is amazing. Also, everyone just loves eating, so that's a thing too, right? Like, who doesn't love eating?
Yeah, no, that's the best part about my job. I get to work with really awesome people who make really great food, and then they feed me. That's it. It's the best perk.
They feed me and I get paid.
I'm like,
wow,
just
that
so
does
you
sound
know,
like a great life.
my love language is food. I tell that to everyone that I work with. Work with a lot of chefs. So I'm like, my love language is food. If you would like to bribe me, the answer is food. And they're like, oh, I'm going to a tasting. I'm like, can I come? I would like to go to the tasting. No shame.
Hey, that's awesome. You get to eat and get paid for it. That
Yes.
sounds like one of those like freaking Discover TV channels, like barbecue on the go or Triple D or something like that. Yo, let's go.
I mean, can you blame me for falling in love with it? I get to study science. I'm constantly learning, and I'm well fed.
You know what? I'm quitting my job now. Allie, you got applications?
uh,
Oh, geez, that was great. Well, here, cheers to you
yeah.
for being an awesome person and educating me on some of these some of this food information. Like, this is
Yeah.
amazing. And in the next segment, we're actually going to go dive deeper as much as we can into some of these more these issues, and then we're going to produce some solutions to these issues, some theories, some awesome theories, and have a drink to it. Duh. All right, everybody, keep it cool, stay tuned, we'll be back. Whoopsh. And we are on. What is up, everybody? This is me, Ted, coming at you. Not live, unfortunately. It's all good, though. From pre-recorded The Drink Sustainability with the one, the only myth, legendary Ali Wiedeke. How's it going?
Oh, pretty great. How are you?
I am fired up right now just because you're on the show with me. We're talking about awesome stuff right now that is just mind-blowing to me anyway. And also teaching me stuff, which is awesome. Plus, we're going to be continuing this later on, like later on in the year / next year, whatever. But it's just amazing information. And it's opening my eyes as a sustainability advocate and background. And it's a great time. We're having a drink, we're chilling, we're talking about all this stuff that has to do with the environment and our food. Because I'm not sure about you, but I love to eat.
Oh, yeah. I think that
Right?
everyone loves to eat. Like, you have to. What are you going to
Not
do?
only
Just
do you
ride on
have to, but
Soylent
it's
all
just
week?
enjoyable.
If it's not enjoyable, you're doing it wrong. Very firmly. If you do not like
Yes.
it, you're doing it very wrong.
Cheers to you for yes, just yes. Just yes. Also, if you recognize this bottle, the brand, I'm not sponsored. She is not sponsored by any of these drinks, any kind of logo or anything on this show. Neither of us are, but we would like to be. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway.
Yeah, anyone wants to sponsor me, they're welcome to. I haven't had an opportunity to be sponsored in like 2 years. No, 4 years. It's been a long time.
Who are you sponsored by?
The Texas Beef Association will sponsor research chefs and food scientists that live in Texas and are athletes. So right before I left Texas, I applied to get sponsored by them, and they were like, yeah, why not? And then I was like, oh, I love Texas.
Oh, Texas, a little bit ago, sorry.
Yep. I was trying to get new sales, man.
Dude, that's sick. I would love to have a sponsor, but it's all good. I'm gonna keep doing this until I get a sponsor.
I am
Just keep
confident that
it. So either way. But anyway, let's dive right in, shall we?
definitely.
Shall we? I think we shall. So the biggest question of this segment is screw that. So you are a food scientist, correct?
Yeah,
You are, but you're also in training because you're just always learning, correct?
always.
Always. You love
Most
your
definitely.
job, yeah? You love your
I
occupation?
absolutely love my job. I love training. I love it all. I was taking continuing education courses earlier today. I think that you always have to be learning, especially in such like a dynamic field. Like, otherwise, what's the point?
Right? I love it. Yes. Yes. So continuing, why should us consumers be like more aware of, say, like the price of an item or product to like concerned with that compared to like the process by which it's goes from land or sea to our dinner plate? And is there like kind of like should we be concerned at all? I know that might be a loaded question, so take your time.
It's definitely a loaded question, and there's a lot of different ways that you can go about answering this. Obviously, the concept that if you pay a higher premium, you can be getting a higher quality product. But from a sustainability standpoint, frequently when you have a lower cost item that's coming from like a farmer's market or something local, it has then traveled less to get to you. So you're putting less emissions into it from that perspective. But if you have a super high priced pasture raised eggs, I love the eggs conversation a lot. Not everyone does the difference between like pasture range, free range, cage free. The more expensive eggs are, typically the less sustainable the process. And that's not like a direct correlation, obviously. However, you'll find that the reason that pasture-raised eggs are so expensive, it's because out of every 6 chickens, like 1 or 2 of them will die early because it's living out in the wild, versus like some of the cheapest eggs, conventional eggs, well, they're in a cage indoors, so they're not being dealt with by the weather. There's a pan on the ground, so that's collecting their poop. So all their eggs are being birthed. I don't know how to describe that.
Incubated?
I don't know if incubated is the right word. All of the eggs are coming out of the chicken.
Okay. Yeah,
they can easily be retrieved. There's less breakage. They're not falling into like large amounts of fecal matter. Also, that fecal matter is frequently collected and then turned into fertilizer. Whereas if you're doing an expensive pasture-raised egg, they could be putting that chicken anywhere, and they could be pooping. The egg could go wherever the chicken wants it to go. As well as you have a lot of problems with the chickens fighting. So there's a much higher death rate among chickens that are pasture-raised versus chickens that are conventionally raised. So you have kind of these problems where it's like, oh, I think I'm paying a premium for something that sounds really nice. I mean, wouldn't you want to run around in a pasture? Probably.
In theory, yeah.
In theory, it
Run
sounds
around, exercise,
delightful, or like
stuff.
cage-free. In theory, it sounds great. And then in practice, you start finding out that this is a much less sustainable option. It requires more land, it requires more feed, and it requires more unnecessary death. Like,
that is true, yeah.
Yeah, so because you have more feed, more land, more unnecessary death, all of those things are super costly. So you're now going from having a dozen eggs cost approximately $2, in general New Jersey stores, versus your cage-free, pasture-raised, organic. Those ones are going to be like what, almost $6, depending on which Whole Foods you're shopping in.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you say that, just because it's like being a consumer ourselves. Like, I've noticed that, like, the incentive to go more sustainable or more eco-friendly or whatever kind of similar phrase you want to go with, it's a horrible incentive for businesses and the government to just like, be like, oh, well, these are organic, these are like really good for you, but they cost like 3 times more. I'm like, well, if it's like all natural and all that kind of stuff, that would mostly mean that you have to put in less stuff to make it that way.
No, there's actually,
right, like,
gram per gram, typically. I believe it's on like tomatoes that the study was done. I don't have this one in front of me, sadly. There are more pesticides used pound per pound in production of organic tomatoes than regular tomatoes. And that's because the pesticides that are being used in organic farming are less versatile. So you need to use more of them or more types. Whereas with the pesticides and non-organic, like genetically modified foods, they're made to be naturally bug resistant, and you can utilize GMO pesticides, which are equally safe and tested to the same standards. And then they can actually just grow almost naturally on a smaller field with less death. And that's why these genetically modified plants exist. And that's why these GMO pesticides exist. It's because they're cheaper, they are safer, and you can create more food for people on this planet, which is already pretty much overpopulated.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Actually, that brings me to another question, which I feel like definitely connected us on social media in the first place, was because you see media saying, oh my God, all these pesticides, or like you just kind of hear through the grapevine, through friends, family, whatever the case may be, of pesticides are horrible, or I don't think anyone you've ever met has ever said, oh, pesticides, GMOs are really good for you. Like, well, besides you, but can you explain for those that don't know what a GMO is and why it actually might be good for us?
Yeah, so genetically modified organisms mean that it's any organism that has been modified in some way using like CRISPR technology or something like that to change the gene code. But the majority of items that you're consuming have already been genetically modified over years and years and years. So the corn that we eat in the store is not the same corn that the Indians were planting 100 years ago.
Definitely not.
Or the indigenous people. I don't know which is proper. I'm really sorry. I don't want to make light of that.
Comment what is correct. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. Anyway. So we have all of these things that have been changed over time to make the product more usable, easier to eat, easier to consume, less rind. The reason that we have clementines, they're genetically modified. You can buy organic clementines, I believe. But the fact of the matter is that has been modified in order to make sure that it has a smaller rind and a juicier center to make it more appetizing. Also to have no seeds so that you don't have to spit them out. It's all been done to make it easiest for the consumer. And frankly, I love clementines. They're delicious. They did a great job.
Wait, so those kind of, I'm sorry to cut you off, but those kind of fruits, they are actually supposed to have seeds in them, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much any kind of fruit crop is supposed to have seeds, and some of them don't and do, whatever.
For the most part, yes. There are a lot of plants that do not have seeds inside them anymore for ease of use by the consumer, among other reasons. Another big major reason is, to the best of my understanding, that the companies that sell genetically modified foods would like you to keep buying their seeds, and also, frankly, they phase them out. So as you have the bananas are a really good example of this, actually. So all bananas are actually genetic clones of each other. And that's a really fun thing. Anyone can Google that. It's really weird. The reason banana candy tastes awful and not anything like bananas is because it tastes like bananas that were like from the 40s or 60s or something weird. But the banana as we know it is functionally extinct. The banana that you ate as a baby no longer exists because of blight. All of the bananas went extinct. So what did we do? We genetically modified bananas so that we could have bananas that were resistant to this blight. Same thing with papayas. Papayas totally extinct. They went extinct early 2000s, I think. Please don't quote me. But all of these things need to be modified so that we can continue enjoying them, because we have new blights, because blights are always modifying, and we have new bugs because the bugs are always modifying. They're going through evolution. So we're helping all of these products go through evolution, which some people don't agree with and some people do. But the fact of the matter is, when you're a farmer in a third world country and you have all of your bananas dying from blight, that's your entire livelihood. That's your family's livelihood. That's what you're using to feed your family. And congrats, your crops are dead. You're not going to have any money this year. How are you going to feed them? You're going to buy new seeds that will not be affected by the blight. And now you're going to continue producing bananas that can be used by multiple other countries.
That's crazy.
Yeah, actually, the Institute of Food Technologists did a really, really interesting movie about this. What they did, because there are tons of organic farmers and stuff that are actually a part of the Institute of Food Technologists, was they gave a production company a bunch of money. And they were like, we're not going to tell you if GMOs are bad or good. We're just going to give you a bunch of money to do a documentary on GMOs. Whatever you do, we don't care. Here's your money. Send it.
That's cool.
And you like go into this movie like prepared for GMOs to be terrible because of course, like I went into this movie thinking that GMOs were bad. I fully admit that. I went to college thinking that organic was the way to go. I believed these things. I just had to be taught otherwise, and to question certain things. So they started working on it. They were interviewing banana farmers and papaya farmers, and they were going to watch like papaya farmers speak at like different municipalities about the farming laws and things of that nature. And they ended up deciding long term that it's best, according to those people's views, that we move forward in a non-organic way. Also, you can look at different studies and they will tell you that there is no nutritional difference between organic and inorganic food.
Wow.
It's, yeah, where is it? 2012 by Smith, Spangler et al. No significant difference in health benefits were found between organic and conventional foods. No differences were seen in the vitamin content of organic and conventional foods. Like there are multiple studies that can be replicated and show that there are these no differences.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just a really awesome marketing tactic.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Not gonna lie, hats off to all the marketing campaigns. And,
hats off. It's fascinating.
yeah, seriously,
it's
like on like
fascinating.
Like, yes, I am pissed off, but also the lengths, the strategy, and the execution of doing this.
Insane. Bravo. Absolutely. Those people,
Headphones
they
off,
did
like
their
all
job.
the nine.
They crushed it.
Shit.
They understood
Yeah.
the assignment. Like they did it.
Can I have your get paid like skills here? Like seriously? Like holy crap, if I did, I would be a fucking millionaire right now. Residually. But anyway, I will eventually. But no, but like it's just crazy because it's like when I go to shop, I'll be like, organic, non-organic. Fuck
I
it,
buy
there's really
whichever
not
one
much
looks
difference
better.
anymore.
I don't care. I go to the store. Sometimes I do buy organic. I admit it. I am not going to be blindsided by sad looking strawberries just because I want strawberries and they're not organic. Like I'm not against buying it.
Well,
because I know that when I want good strawberries, sometimes those ones look better.
No, yeah,
they do.
Absolutely. They do. And luckily for me, I have an awesome machine that removes the pesticides, the ones that I told you about. But actually, speaking of that,
that you're terrified about.
Yeah, all the pesticides that I'm terrified about. Now I feel like pesticides are great and everything that I've learned is a fucking lie. But speaking of which, can we actually go into, really quick, can we go into what a pesticide is and all that jazz?
Yeah, so a pesticide at its core is just some type of product that kills pests. Vinegar is a pesticide, caffeine, pesticide. There are lots of these like really simple compounds that people don't realize are pesticides. Dish soap can be a pesticide. It's just
anything that's a repellent of pests.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Garlic pesticide, man. Yeah, so just at its core, that's all it is. And it doesn't have to be something that's super scary. It's just not something that every person has the time to learn about. And human nature is, if you don't know about something, it can be scary, because there are lots of scary things in this world.
Oh, hell
Um,
yeah.
Not to mention, there are lots of things that like are kind of scary. Like what some of the pesticides found on, so the Dirty Dozen in like 2013, I believe, they had strawberries. So one of my friends, Livy Ron, she's a dietitian and meat scientist out of Chicago. Small plug
Cool.
for her. She did the math, and it's like 435 servings of strawberries to have any potential negative effects in an adult woman. Servings, not individual strawberries. 435 servings of strawberries for you to have a potential negative effect from any of the pesticides. On the same token,
Okay.
you can have 9 Red Bulls.
Nothing.
No, 9 Red Bulls, and you'll have the same problems that you will have from 435 servings of strawberries.
Damn.
Yeah, it's one of those things where
You'll
you just
have the same effect in terms of pesticide, I don't know, side effects, I guess you could say.
yeah, so like it's
As long as
poisoning.
I'm understanding that right.
Honestly, I will fall on admit it's poisoning. You can be poisoned by a pesticide just like you can be poisoned by water.
Yeah.
Flat out. So yes, in order to have the potential, not a guarantee, the potential for a problem from servings of organic or non-organic strawberries, it is 435 servings.
You have to have that in order to actually
in one sitting.
have the potential
Yeah.
side effects.
Honestly, you're gonna have a lot worse side effects from all of the fiber you just freaking consumed. That's
Yeah, probably.
I don't know how you're gonna fit 435 strawberries in your belly. I don't know any grown woman who's gonna eat 435 servings, because I'm pretty sure they're like half cup servings of like sliced strawberries. Don't know, don't quote me on that half cup slice thing, but I'm pretty sure. But you can quote me on 435 servings. I'm confident in that number.
No, I mean that's I mean
it's all about the dosage.
That's pretty much having like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, breakfast, brunch, lunch, and dinner. Like like
the whole
just
9 yards.
consistently having that in, but you can't even have that in a whole day. Like
correct.
So you're good, essentially.
Yeah. Like pesticides sound terrifying. If it kills bugs, it might kill me. Congratulations. Water can also kill you. And so can caffeine. And so can the majority of the medications that people take on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing called ODing. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you can overdose on vitamin C.
Yeah, you can.
And actually, it's actually a really common thing that people do, especially when they're sick, because they take too much vitamin C. Because of like all of those like packets of like immuno.
Yeah.
If you're like feeling sick and you take like 2 or 3 of those, all of a sudden you're at 200 times the limit that you're supposed to be at. And congrats, your immune system is now functioning slightly worse than if you hadn't done that. And people don't realize like, that's also like functioning slightly worse. Functioning slightly worse, not dead. That's the negative effect we're talking about. Like we're not.
Yeah, the negative effect would be death, not like.
No. The negative effect when I say 435 strawberries or servings of strawberries, we're not talking about death.
Right.
We're talking about discomfort.
Just discomfort, like irritation or something like that.
Potential irritation, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's not that bad actually.
Yeah.
So there's like a very high percentage that you will, or probability that you will not actually hit that point though.
Yeah, it's
like
much impossible.
in love with strawberries and just can never get enough of them, I guess.
Yeah, there's like a significantly higher chance that you're going to get food poisoning from your local restaurant than that you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, determining shelf life is a huge part of what I do. So very confident in saying that you will get food poisoning long before you die of pesticides or feel discomfort from pesticides.
Cool.
I mean,
So like,
outside of if you like go chug a bottle of pesticides, like please don't do that. But like
no.
for plants, you know, the normal human functions in your day-to-day life. I am not here to tell anyone that like the US government sets out like the world's best restrictions, period, paragraph, because I've had plenty of problems with like, we don't have microbial standards and other countries do, and things of that nature. So like you can put any shelf life you want on something, but obviously if you put a really long shelf life on something and then it would taste bad, then you wouldn't make any money because no one would buy it, and then they would
Yeah.
get sick and then they would sue you and there goes your whole company. It's like there are repercussions to the concept, but like
Right.
basically in long, pesticides in the wrong doses can be bad for you, but in the doses that you're exposed to them are entirely harmless.
Huh. Interesting. Cool. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. Uh, so just to so we can actually close out this part of the show.
Mhm.
So let's kind of wrap this up in terms of like so essentially people should always be more of a conscious consumer of not even produce but also just all their food in general.
Yeah, to summarize, if you really want to focus on making sure that a product is good for you, bad for you, if a company is sustainable, not sustainable, don't just look at the buzzwords on the packaging. They're not going to tell
Yeah,
you
no.
much. It's not helpful. Organic is no more helpful than natural as far as ensuring that you have a like safe and healthy life. Realistically, your best bet is working with a local dietitian to make sure that you're consuming all of the nutrients that you should be.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably your best
and
bet in terms of that.
frankly, if you find yourself having a lot of ailments or issues, I 110% recommend going to your doctor. And even if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, you can go to your PCP, your primary care physician, and you can tell them that you're having these problems and that you would like to work with a dietitian or a nutritionist. And your insurance, if prescribed to you by your primary care physician, typically covers that. And you can work with someone like that to learn more about different forms of nutrition and what your body truly needs. I mean, changing your nutrition can totally change your life. I'm a firm believer
Yeah.
that eating more protein ended up making me significantly, ridiculously more awake. Who knew? I wasn't eating enough protein and I was sleepy all the time. Like, who could have put that together other than a dietitian, you know?
Yeah.
But like a lot of people look to like the internet or like these random or like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and you're getting all of these different voices telling you, buy this, you know, drink the detox tea. And it's not always the right thing.
Not always, but that, like you said, that's when you have to really just do a little bit of research yourself. Even if you try to set aside an hour one night and be like, hey, like I'm trying to figure X out, so let me look it up later on when I get home. Hubby or whoever will be taking care of whoever it is, and I'll have like an hour to myself. And then trade off and stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Granted, yes, easier said than done. I totally get that because things come up last minute, whatever. But yeah, definitely just like, try it out. Try out, your own research. That's
Always.
yeah. And oh, and just for in terms of seafood, because I've been researching this a lot lately. The Marine Stewardship Council, I would definitely check them out, only because there is an actual strict standards that they have to follow for like good quality seafood to actually go from the sea to your dinner plate.
Oh yeah, and the US actually has some of the most strict as far as seafood laws.
Right. Yeah.
they're actually, that is one thing that I fully appreciate is our seafood laws.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we could, what I'm about to say is a whole nother topic for the next show, but because when you throw away plastic, which only about 5% is now recyclable, if not less, it ends up in the landfill, which obviously goes from landfill, may end up in the ocean some way, shape, or form, somehow, some way, at some particular point in time. And it's crazy because I love eating seafood. A bunch of my friends and family love eating seafood, you included.
On the shore.
Yeah, like on the shore, like
Okay.
we're all sailors. We love eating seafood, oysters, all that kind of shit. But the one thing that we had to continuously watch out for is microplastic, and obviously micro, which is
Microplastics have
small.
been banned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been photos and videos that I've seen of, actual like organizations or just like fishermen catching them and cutting the gut open, and all of a sudden there's like the stomach is pretty much filled with all like fucking plastic of any kind of PP. Oh my god, I can't even think of the symbols anymore, but you know what I'm saying. So essentially just protect the damn environment, guys. Help protect the environment. Let's be fucking ants and work together.
But also don't guilt yourself. If you work for a large corporation and you have the ability to stand up, that's going to cause a much larger impact than whether or not
hell
you
yeah.
go to the grocery store and you buy a face wash that you think sounds good, and all of a sudden you find out there's microbeads in it instead of sugar scrub. Like, that's not on you. That is not on you. Do not guilt yourself. Do not hate yourself for not knowing. By no means, you can't know everything. But if you definitely, if you work for a large corporation and you have the opportunity to sit there and say, hey, this might not be the best idea I've ever, pushed, or this might not be the best thing for the environment. I encourage absolutely everyone to talk to your supervisors, talk to the people around you and see, hey, what if we did this ever so differently? Frequently, there is a relatively equal cost solution. And no, you cannot always convince your supervisors to go with the relatively equal cost, because 10 cents on the dollar is a lot of money when you're working on hundreds of thousands of products. But
all she could do is simply try.
Exactly.
And definitely execute just like that. And worst case scenario, they still back you out and you're like,
worst case scenario,
okay, you throw in the towel or you keep approaching it a different way. Either way, you're still trying to do it. So I commend you on the future effort. Yeah. But to conclude the show, cheers to you, Ali, once more for being gracious enough to be on the show. And you be safe, you be well, stay hydrated, and eat well.
Definitely. And to you as well.
Thank you. Without any further ado, have fun in the city, and I'm going to go to bed soon.
Bye. Enjoy your night.
See ya.
Hello everyone. Thank you for watching The Drink Sustainability. Warning. As you watch the show, be sure to clink at your own risk. Drinks may not appear the way that they seem.